Welcome, everyone, to this briefing brought to you by the Israel Defense and Security Forum, IDSF. It is a great pleasure, as always, to be joined today by Brigadier General Amir Avivi, the founder and chairman of IDSF. General, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure.
General, as always, there's a lot going on this war. What can you share with us?
Yeah, so let's start to talk about Yemen. Israel attacked today with the Air Force, the port of El Hudaydah. And Israel is working very, very hard to really try and dismantle the capabilities of the Houthis. Israel has been doing a siege on the ports, the airport and the naval ports of the Houthis, but also putting a lot of effort in improving the intelligence in a way that we can really reach the leadership of the Houthis. We've seen some of these really achievements in the attack on Iran. When we attacked Iran the first day, we also attacked the chief of staff of the Houthis. Unfortunately, he was not killed, he was injured. But this shows how the IDF and the Mossad are able, in a short period of time, to really start and get very good intelligence about what's going on with the Houthis. At the same time, we're trying to enhance the cooperation with countries that are suffering from the Houthis a long time, the Saudis, the Emiratis, and of course the American coalition, America and the British, to really try and coordinate and create a reality where we can change the reality in Yemen and possibly move forward to dismantling the Houthis or degrading dramatically their capabilities. In order to do that, we need to be able to coordinate some kind of also ground attack of the many forces that are fighting the Houthis inside Yemen. Some of them are supported by the Saudis, some by the Emiratis. All of them are being helped also by CENTCOM, by the American coalition. And these groups, they seized the big amount of weapons that were sent to the Houthis from Iran. And they managed to seize all these capabilities that were going to the Houthis. The Houthis shot this week a ballistic missile, and today also a drone. Both of them were intercepted. So we still have to deal with the Houthis, and it will take time until we manage to really make a big difference. At the same time, the whole week, we have been dealing with continuous attacks of jihadists on Sweda, on the Druze area in Syria. Israel has been assisting the Druze. We're doing it for two reasons. One, it's because we have a big Druze community in Israel, people who serve in the army, their families are being literally butchered in Syria, and we feel a responsibility towards the Druze community to help them and defend their families on the Syrian side. The second reason is that we also have a strategic interest in having an alliance with the Druze in the Golan Heights to create a buffer zone that will prevent all these jihadists, and the sites are just like the 7th of October, prevent them from really taking over areas that are very close to the Israeli border at the Golan. We need this buffer zone. And I must say that all the things that are happening in Syria, all the dilemmas, where to go, whether there should be a unified Syrian state or a state that is divided into autonomies or other states, like a Kurdish area, Druze area, Alawi area, and so on. This discussion has been going on for more than 100 years. After the First World War, when the French took over this area of Syria, they divided Syria into 6 states. One of them, by the way, became Lebanon. But there was a state called the Jabal Druze state, or the El Sueda state, that existed for 15 years. All this area that they're attacking now used to be a certain period of time a state, and has always enjoyed some kind of autonomy. I can say that at the end of the 6-day war, when the 6-day war ended, Igal Alon, one of our prominent generals and a guy that always thought out of the box, he called for creating, at that time in 1967, an autonomous Druze area on the Syrian side that will side with Israel and prevent the Syrian forces from getting close to the Israeli Golan. So these ideas have been around for more than 100 years, and we're again at the same point where Israel needs to have a clear long-term strategy. And what we want to see the whole area from Damascus all the way to Israel completely clean from any militias or forces, and we want to see the Druze cooperating with Israel and being safe. So we are supporting them with direction, intelligence, air force that is helping them. And this week we also attacked the government sites of Ashara, of Julani, to send a clear message: we're not going to allow them to conquer the area of Sweda. But having said that, there is still fierce fighting in this area, and the Druze are fighting against militias that people call Bedouins, but this is ISIS, Al-Qaeda forces that are attacking, they are dressed as ISIS, and they are behaving as ISIS, raping women and killing people, exactly the same things we saw on the 7th of October. So in Syria, things are very busy. In Lebanon, this week, the IDF continued attacking Hezbollah terrorists that are trying to rebuild again capabilities in South Lebanon and in other areas. So Hezbollah is being all the time degraded systematically. And of course, the center of attention of Israel is in Gaza. The IDF reached the point where we are controlling 75% of the Gaza Strip, and the forces are really working hard to completely dismantle the terror infrastructure in this 75% in a way that there will be not even one terrorist or tunnel or house, booby-trapped house in these areas. And since Hamas is not agreeing to a hostage deal, the IDF is now enhancing the attack to areas we haven't operated before, western part of Khan Yunis, and also now forces are going into Deir el-Balah. This is an area that the IDF didn't really operate seriously, and now it's operating very strongly in this area to enhance the pressure on Hamas. Now, the problem in Gaza is that no matter how much pressure we're putting on Hamas in Gaza, and there is a lot of pressure. There are 5 divisions attacking and dismantling all this terror infrastructure. There is no real functioning leadership inside Gaza anymore. We have Azzedine al-Haddad in the city of Gaza, hiding in some tunnel. He's not really controlling everything that's going on in Gaza. Gaza is in a state of chaos with pockets of resistance in different places, and decision-making is done by the leadership of Hamas in Qatar. Now, this leadership is living in 5-star hotels or even 10-star hotels. They are billionaires. They don't care at all what's going on in Gaza, and they're not being pressured by what's going on in Gaza. So they refuse to release the hostages. And the negotiations are very, very problematic. And if this doesn't change, we need to change strategy and start taking them out. We have said again and again that we think that the US should extradite all this leadership, send it to some dungeon in some jail, and then put pressure on them to release the hostages. While they're sitting in 5-star hotel, I don't see enough pressure to really achieve what we need to achieve. This is the release of our hostages. So now we're in the point where we need to enhance more and more the pressure, and this is what the army is doing. And at the same time, decide what is the overall strategy in the next stage. Everybody agrees that we need to achieve all goals of war and eradicate Hamas completely and bring the hostages and not have any more terror armies in Gaza. But as to the strategy, how to do it, there are different views. One view says, let's completely clean the 75% and create a war of attrition on the remaining 25%, meaning continue to degrade them all the time, kill the remaining leadership, attack again and again with the Air Force, do raids, but not conquer all of it because we don't want to control all the 2 million people. This is one approach. Another approach is to move all the Gazans to Rafah in a zone controlled by Israel, and then putting a full siege on all areas of Gaza where Hamas stays, in order to bring a complete surrender of Hamas without water, without food, and Gazans themselves in Rafah receiving humanitarian aid, and also of course, promoting relocation. Another strategy is to go into the city of Gaza with 3 divisions and completely the city of Gaza and completely clean the whole northern part of Gaza Strip. No Hamas, no Gazans, everybody south of Netzarim. And then have to decide what we do with North Gaza, what we should do, stake it and annex it to Israel. And really work with President Trump to create a completely different place in north of Gaza and send a clear message. If you massacre us, there is a price to pay, and it's not going to be only destroying Hamas, it's going to be land. So this is the kind of decision-making that the government needs to take. And I can say that if until now in Gaza, the logic of what we do was mostly military logic that dictated what needs to be done. Now the government needs to take the real decisions, whether it's relocation, whether it's annexing areas, whether it's putting a siege, whether it's a war of attrition on the remaining areas. I mean, the Gazans now are residing in a narrow area of 25%. We are holding 75%, which we can clean completely, take over the whole 75%, move all the forces forward, and close on the remaining 25%, and that's it. That's the reality. And of course, degrade them all the time. It's obvious that they cannot really endanger us anymore. They have very few rockets left, and if we control these areas, the town will be safe. But this, on one hand, will really safeguard our soldiers, but it will prolong the war, because the war of attrition takes more time with less casualties. If we go into Gaza City, of course, we have a lot of gains, but it's a very complex warfare, as we saw in the areas that we operated until now. So there is no right or wrong. It's just different strategies to achieve the same goal of eradicating Hamas as a governmental and military entity, and making sure there will be no terror armies anymore, and of course bringing back the hostages. And these are the discussions we see at the moment relating to Gaza. One thing is sure, all these talks about having a 60-day ceasefire and then it's the end of the war are completely disconnected from reality and from what is being planned. Israel is not going to stop until Hamas will be eradicated, one way or another. And it's just a matter of choosing the right strategy. So this is at the moment the situation on the different war fronts. Moshe, you want to ask questions?
General, thank you so much for sharing all of that. So many questions coming in from our viewers, and thank you to all of the viewers who send in questions in the Zoom or the WhatsApp, email, text messages. Everyone knows how to get those questions in. General, one of the great leaders of IDSF in Israel is Major Gershon HaKohen, and I believe it was reported today he was at a conference in Jerusalem on the issue of sovereignty in Yehuda v'Shomron. Are you able to share a little bit your opinion on that issue, and if sovereignty, declaring sovereignty in Yehuda v'Shomron will impact, as you said, progress in Gaza potentially?
So I think that we share in IDSF the same vision as is being pushed at the moment by the government, the vision of applying sovereignty in Judea and Samaria, in the Jordan Valley, in most of the areas in Judea and Samaria. Israel needs to have overall sovereignty in the land of Israel, overall responsibility of security everywhere. But we also want some basic kind of self-governance for the Palestinians, because we're not interested in annexing 2 million Palestinians and giving them Israeli citizenship. This is why we're pushing the model of cantonizing like city-states, emirates, based on clans. But definitely, it's crucial that in the coming year, more will apply sovereignty. At the moment, we have a completely distorted reality that the Arabs in Judea and Samaria, they live under the Palestinian Authority, not under Israel, which is a terrible entity, and we need a different kind of leadership, but this is the reality at the moment. And the Jews in Judea and Samaria, they live under occupation. They are being occupied by the Israeli army. They live under military law, not Israeli law, which is crazy. This is Israeli citizens. It makes no sense. And so we need to change this. We need to apply the Israeli law over all the areas where we have our Jewish towns. 60% of Judea and Samaria at least. And Israelis should live under Israeli law, not under a military government. So the only occupation there is in Judea and Samaria is Jews that are being occupied. That's what's happening. That's the reality. And this has been going on from 1967, and it's not normal. Israelis need to be under Israeli law, not under military law. I mean, Moshe, you understand that if somebody has a house in Judea and Samaria, and he wants a balcony, and he needs a permit for the balcony, he needs to ask the permit from the army to build a balcony. It's not normal. Doesn't make sense. And this also affects our whole national planning. If we want to build electricity plants, we won't build it in Judea and Samaria because we haven't decided that it's ours. We're not building roads in a way that can really shift the center of gravity from the coastal area to the mountains and to the Jordan Valley. We're not building railways. Nothing serious is happening. Yes, there's more people living in Judea and Samaria. The communities are growing, but this is very, very small. It's not really taking and building the whole potential of this huge area to have millions of Jews and a huge infrastructure and developing Israel economically. And also, all this development will be for the benefit also of the Arabs who live in Judea and Samaria. To be very much for their benefit, because there will be a lot of industries and work and so on, and this will create good economy for everybody. So yes, we are very much in favor of stopping the military occupation on Jews and applying Israeli sovereignty over this area. And this is an integral part of the land of Israel and the state of Israel, and we must have this area to exist. It's an existential issue. There is no security without the Jordan Valley and the mountains of Judea and Samaria.
Definitely. Now, General, last week on our briefing, you shared with our viewers the importance of the Morag corridor in Gaza. Do you have an update on the extent to which the IDF will remain in there, or is it being negotiated now?
So the negotiations in Qatar are undergoing. We don't really know the details. We know that there is a discussion whether in the 60 days we'll stay in the Morag Road or not. I'm saying it's not really about the road. It's about the perimeter. It's about the area between Philadelphia and Morag. This area has been cleared from Hamas completely. there we need to build the humanitarian area and move all the Gazans to this area. There is also a clan that we are working with that lives in this area, and all the family of the clan moved to this area, so we cannot create a reality where Hamas will butcher them. So the government might agree to move a few hundred meters south from the road itself, but this is not the issue. The issue is controlling the area overall, not just the road. The road we can take over again pretty easily. So these are the discussions, and as I said again and again, we're not putting enough pressure on Hamas in Qatar. These guys need to be taken out. They need to be extradited. We need to arrest them. They are not under pressure. They don't care what's going on in Gaza. They don't care how many people die and how much area the IDF is controlling. They are taking the decisions. It's not Hamas Gaza that's taking the decision. So we need to put the pressure on them.
In order to go after the Hamas leaders in Qatar, does that require U.S. Participation, or can Israel do that? And would Israel do that on its own?
If we're talking about eliminating them, we can do it alone. If we're talking about telling the Qataris to arrest them and send them to Guantanamo, for this we need the U.S. We need the U.S. to demand extradition of all this leadership. And I think this is the right way to do it. I mean, if there's one thing the U.S. can do that will completely change the reality and release not half of the hostages, release all of them, is arresting the leadership of Hamas. Now, people say to me, Amir, it's not relevant. I mean, the administration has good relations with Qatar. I'm saying, okay, I'm not asking them to do something bad to Qatar. I'm asking them to arrest the leadership of Hamas. They have killed Americans. They have kidnapped Americans. I don't see it as something that undermines the Qataris. But really, if we want to move forward in winning this war, we want to shorten it, we want to save the hostages, if we want to move towards regional peace agreements, we need to get serious about this leadership and do something about it. And I think the U.S. has a big role in really pushing this and helping release the hostages.
Now, General, the strike that Israel conducted on Yemen seemed to be a little bit different from the ordinary in that Israel used drones as opposed to aircraft. Are you able to comment a little bit about that and maybe the development of technologies as the war has been progressing?
The army is using a variety of capabilities. We see the Navy much more active in the fight against the Houthis. We see different capabilities of the Air Force. When we prepared for the war in Iran, we needed to create a capability to use our drones far away, more than 1,000 miles. This required different technological capabilities we had to develop and put on the drones. And once we did that, we operated above Iran, obviously this enables us also to operate in Yemen. And these capabilities didn't exist a year ago. These capabilities were developed in the last year in preparation for the war with Iran. And now we're able to use all these capabilities that were developed also against the Houthis.
Brigadier General Amir Avivi, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. Thank you, of course, to all our viewers and supporters for tuning into this briefing. We will be back with you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. here in Israel. Until then, stay safe, stay strong. Take care, everyone.